Hello, and welcome to the Misty Portal. My name is Adam. I am the creator behind the Misty Portal, and I just wanted to have this first podcast just be a brief overview of myself and why I have created the Misty Portal, and basically what Dungeons and Dragons means to me, as it has become a very large part of my life in the past 6 years. So it's been about 6 years since I started playing, and I was first introduced to Dungeons and Dragons through Twitch. I watched a channel, I believe it was ItMeJP, and he was at the time having a show called The West Marches. The DM was Stephen Lumpkin, and it was a very harsh, basically difficult version of D&D. It was like a hex crawl, I believe, and people would die quite a bit. He would have one shots where people died, and there were regular character deaths. And I had never watched Dungeons and Dragons. I knew what Dungeons and Dragons was from growing up, hearing about it, and being a nerd my whole life. You'd think I would be attracted to D&D, but it felt too nerdy even for me. And once I started watching this show, The West Marches, it really took all those preconceived notions that I had about D&D, threw them out the window, and I was pretty much hooked immediately. From there, I started watching Critical Role. I started watching other Twitch channels that were hosting D&D. I started looking at YouTube D&D channels. It just became this thing that I was obsessed with, where I just had to watch more and see what else was out there. I was also streaming on Twitch at the time, and ended up running into a dude that said he would run a campaign for me and a few people if I could gather them together. And that was the first game I ever played, was a game on Twitch. So, actually, I think the first few games I ever played were live on Twitch. The first time I ever DM'd was shortly after the first game I played, and that was also live on Twitch. In fact, over the past 6 years, I have been a dungeon master far more than a player. I've played a handful of times in a few games, but most of them have been one-shots. I haven't really played in any reoccurring campaign, with the exception of that first one. And, it's tough to find people to DM, to be honest, which is why I ended up just taking up the mantle and saying, hey, look, if I really want to play, I guess I'm going to have to be a DM. So, really, for the past 6 years, I've been DMing. For the past 2 years, I have been writing my own campaign and running my personal friends through it. And that is one of the most rewarding and just super fun experiences I've had. D&D has taken all the creative stuff that I like to do and helped me to focus it all into something. So I get to draw, I get to make maps, I get to write, I get to perform. There's so many little creative aspects to being a dungeon master. And like I said, they've helped me to focus all of that into something that has goals at the end of it. And I really appreciate that about Dungeons and Dragons and being a DM, because otherwise I'll sit around trying to think of what I want to do that's creative, and I will probably waste way more time just trying to think about what it is I want to do than actually doing it. now with a campaign that I've got to have set up for, we go every 2 weeks or so, or sometimes every 3 weeks before we have a session. But there's always that focus. There's something. Okay, I've got to make maps just in case they do this, this, and this. Oh, I've got to write in. A new character over here. They're going to be visiting a new town or something, so I got to write that in. All sorts of stuff, and I appreciate what D&D has brought to my life in that aspect, especially. Something else that's really great about D&D is watching your friends have fun, and you also having fun. There's so much laughter. There's an array of emotions that happens during any one game of D&D, and you'll see people, on the verge of tears. You'll see people cracking up and laughing. You'll see people getting frustrated and getting mad, and it's such a fun game because of all of those things. Because there's not that many games where you'll sit down somewhere for 4+ hours and try and put yourself in the shoes of a different person entirely and take on their emotions and what they're feeling. It's got such a unique and very interesting way to affect people. And Dungeons and Dragons, I think for me it had a bad rap. For a ton of people, it has had a bad rap. There was the whole God, what was it? It was like a devil worshipping scare way back in the 70s and 80s, and even when I was a kid, growing up into the through the 80s and the 90s, there were still all sorts of devil worshipping scares about D&D, and it's evil, and it's forcing kids to commit suicide or murders. Just one of those dumb things where people are looking for an outlet to blame the chaos of society on. And none of that resonated with me. I never really took that seriously. It was always just it's dudes in their basements. It's like dudes that live with their moms in their basements, and they're super ultra nerds, and they're too nerdy for me. And I'm so glad that it is becoming more and more mainstream now, because it can create so much fun for a group of people. Fun that doesn't really happen in any other way. I think board games get you close. I think just hanging out with friends and having conversations with them gets you close. But it's really so many different things. It's fights. It's role playing if your friends are willing to do it. It's problem solving. It's puzzle solving. There are so many different things that can happen in any one game of Dungeons and Dragons that it's just singularly unique in the experience it gives you. And I really just want to share all of those positive feelings about Dungeons and Dragons with you guys. And that's pretty much the entire reason I have started making these videos on the Misty Portal. I want to give you guys content to help fledgling dungeon masters get on their feet and start creating stuff for their campaign and start getting into it. And I want to just encourage anybody that is maybe teetering on the edge of playing or DMing, and I want to help just push you over that ledge. Just jump in, get crazy, do it. You're gonna have a ton of fun, I promise. You're gonna love it. And it's I think what you have to do is find the right people but once you have that group that can get together, that can get along, people that you trust, people that you enjoy spending your time with, once you get that group and you guys really start getting into the swing of things, it's something that you will have these memories of it for the rest of your lives. You know, you'll talk about it down the road, and you'll talk about things that happen in campaigns, and it's like I said, it's just a singularly unique experience that can really bring a ton of joy to a group of friends that might otherwise love hanging out with each other, but would never have experiences quite like the ones that you have playing Dungeons and Dragons. I hope you guys are interested in seeing more content here on the Misty Portal. I'm going to be putting out reviews of Dungeons and Dragons related products, more podcasts. I'm going to get podcasts with guests on it, podcasts with some of my players. I would love to have my players on and interview them a little bit and just talk to them and get their perspectives on playing the game. I'm going to do some, I make a lot of maps. I make a lot of, physical stuff for my campaign. And I want to show you guys how I do some of that stuff. And, for any kind of new players or DMs, I just want to hopefully give you guys ideas, get you inspired, and really hopefully just get you into a game so you can experience some of the fun that Dungeons and Dragons can bring to you. All right. Well, thanks for watching this first podcast of the Misty Portal. Look out for new videos here every Monday. And if you enjoy and want to see more, hit that subscribe button down below. And we'll be seeing you guys real soon. Much love.